Now, there's a record number of people applying for a training visa, subclass 407, and that comes with a lot of tips and tricks that a lot of people don't know, which leads to visa refusal. And in this video, I'm going to talk about how to apply for a subclass 407, what it is, and why you should consider this. Without further ado, let's get started. Hi, in case this is the first time you see me, my name is Johnny. I'm a migration lawyer based in Sydney, and I post daily content on migration law and policies to help people like you to get PR faster. Now, last year, on the 1st of July 2024, which is effectively last year, the Department of Home Affairs has reduced the maximum age for 485 visas from 50 years old to now under 36, which is you can still apply when you're 35. And that shuts a lot of people out of the subclass 485 graduate visas pathway, because a graduate visa is an extremely important visa that gives you 18 to 2 years worth of work right. If you go through the higher education stream, you also may be eligible for an extension. Of course, for some passport holders, they have 5 years of 485. That's a different story. However, this work right is essential to people who actually need to gain valuable Australian work experience so that eventually may lead to a higher chance of getting permanent residency. Now, we all know if you're over 35, then you can't apply. If you're 36 or above, you simply can't. Then what you should do, if you have seen my TikTok or Instagram, you know that I've been asking people to consider the 407 training visa. What it does is a visa that gives you a maximum of 2 years of full work right in Australia. Now, there's a catch. The actual visa duration depends on the training plan, because it is a training visa effectively. So the employer will need to come up with a training plan in order to provide a structural approach for your duration in Australia. For example, they need to assess your skill set, they need to assess what qualification do you have, what kind of skills that you're kind of lacking and needs to improve. So they'll need to prepare something called a training plan. And this training plan is essential to the success of a 407 training visa, because what it does is allows the department to determine whether or not you actually meet the requirements to go through a training program. And that's the number one requirements. You need a training plan, and the duration depends on the training plan. But if your training plan is more than 2 years, it doesn't matter, because the maximum time that you have in Australia is 2 years. And you have full work right. And number two requirements, of course, you need an employer. When it comes to the employer, it's very straightforward. It needs to be someone in Australia and an operating business has the capability of providing supervisions for your nominated occupations. Now, I'll keep throwing new ideas in it, so you've got to follow me through the whole video so that you understand the whole logic here. Now, with the employer, of course, it's a training plan, so they have to have someone who's qualified to supervise you to gain skills in these certain areas. Now, these supervisors is very important. For example, if your nominated occupation, say, is a carpenter, then you will need to make sure that there's a senior carpenter or someone who knows what to do and who knows how to upskill you to be your supervisor. And that also needs to be submitted to the Department of Home Affairs. But also, when it comes to the employer, if you know a lot about the 482 skills in demand visa, you know they have SBS, the standard business sponsor. When it comes to the 407, they don't have that, but they have something similar, which is called temporary activities sponsor, TAS. The employer will need to apply for a TAS so that they become eligible to nominate you for the 407 training visa. Like all the other skills in demand visa, skill working visa, you can actually have the employer to lodge the TAS at the same time of lodging a nomination to nominate you for the training visa. Then you can also lodge a visa against it. So everything can be done within a day or 2 days, so that it becomes a very convenient tool for people who seek to gain full work right and extend their stay in Australia. So that's the whole story for the 407 training visa. However, when it comes to a 407 training visa, there's no PR pathway afterwards. It's just a training visa, and there's nothing more afterwards. The only pathway that's available is that after you've completed your training visa or halfway through your training visa, you should have gained at least 1 year of full-time work experience, isn't it? So you can use the 1 year full-time work experience. If you also have the qualification requirements that's met, then maybe you can apply for the skill in demand visa under one of the streams, which is specialist streams or core skill pathway. So either one of them. So that would be the 407 training visa. However, there's a few things that you need to know. Number one, yes, it is cheap, but no matter what it requires as an employer, you can't just do it without an employer. Number two, you must have at least 12 months of study or work experience in order to qualify for the 407 training visa in the past 24 months. So you need to have 12 months of study or work experience in the last 24 months before you apply. That is essential. I have seen people who got refused because they only have 11 months. It is a hard requirement, so make sure you follow it to the letter. It's quite important. Now, the other thing is it has a very long processing time. I would currently expect to wait for at least a year in order to obtain a 407 training visa. And if you got rejected, then that's horrible news because you've been waiting for a year. So that's that. Number three, but the good thing is if you're jumping from a 485 graduate visa or some other visas that has a work right, then it's very likely that you continue on with the same work right. But of course, you double check your bridging visa's conditions to ensure that you actually have the full work right to continue working during the waiting period. And last but not least, you gotta remember, yes, you can bring your whole family on the 407 training visa to Australia. However, your secondary applicant does not get full work right. Your secondary applicants can only work for no more than 20 hours a week and for the full duration of your training visa. So that's the downside of that. But regardless, for many of you who are over 36, who are 36 or above, literally over 35, and you have no other ways to obtain full work rights in Australia, then the 407 training visa may be your only way. If you want to know more, make sure you hit the subscribe button, like this video, share it with your friends, and you've got comment in the section below. And I'll see you in my next episode.